Professional snooker players are the very best in the world for a reason. They're able to do things that others simply can't. So in order to find out how good they are, I'm going to be taking the 20 hardest and most difficult shots to play from the entire season and attempt to recreate them as accurately as possible in the fewest possible attempts. Once again, all these shots were discovered by GT Commissar, and there's a link to the original video in the description. We're going to begin though with Luca Brecel. This shot is incredibly difficult because of the power and accuracy it requires to get the cue ball round onto the red. The blue would normally be a relatively comfortable shot, but the fact that you have to play it with a lot of topspin and left hand side makes it very missable. It's also incredibly difficult to control the line the cue ball needs to take to get on the red. As we'll see in other shots coming up, my table isn't as fast as what you'll see on TV, so I wasn't even sure if it was possible to play this shot at all. I'm not sure until I play all the other shots whether or not this will win, but this is definitely a contender for the hardest shot of the season already, and we're only on the first shot. It took me 11 attempts and I only just got on the red at the end, but unfortunately I think this was the best I could do. Stephen Maguire's attempting a shot on a yellow that I'm also not sure whether or not I'm going to be able to play. That's because it needs a lot of power to get around 4 cushions and back into bulk again for the green. The shot also requires backspin and left hand side to make the angle. On my first attempt I didn't quite get this right and went a little bit too wide, so I hit the blue. I had to dial back the left hand side a little bit so I hit the right place on the top cushion, quite close to the pocket. I had to strike the cue ball about as hard as I could, but other than that this shot wasn't too difficult. Rickey Walden is also attempting the yellow, but as you can see his pot isn't so easy. With the cue ball being so close to the cushion here, it's really difficult to get a clean strike on it and power it back out again for the green. Was really pleased to get this on my first attempt, and the little nudge on the jaw made it even better. Jack Lisowski now getting in position off the black with a lot of side spin. And Jack uses all the right hand side on the cue ball to check it back off the bulk cushion and get it back in the middle of the table again for position on the next red. With the side spin and the cue ball quite close to the corner pocket, it actually makes the pot on the black quite difficult. I managed to get it on my first attempt, but didn't quite get the cue ball into the right position. My second attempt was definitely good enough, although I wanted to do this a little bit better, and my third attempt definitely was that. I was really happy to pot this black 3 times in a row, and I was really happy to get more or less perfectly in position. The next shot we're looking at is from Stephen Maguire, and it's actually incredibly difficult to set these balls up perfectly. Because the balls are so close together, it's a real challenge to get the angle right, but I eventually managed it. What I love about this shot is the way the cue ball goes around in front of the brown, and even though I managed to pot it on my first attempt, I realised I hadn't quite played it right as the cue ball ran on too far, and it required a little bit of backspin. Really pleased to get this because this was a tough shot. Next I've got to try and play a one-handed shot because that's what Mark Williams did at the shootout. This one really wasn't as difficult as I thought it might be, especially when I got down on the shot and my cue was wobbling around an awful lot. I had to put my bridge hand on the other side, but it's not touching the cue, and when I pushed my cue through I realised it was actually fairly simple. Because I'm right-handed, this brilliant positional shot from Judd is one I'm simply not going to be able to reach, so I've made the decision to play it with the rest. This shot just requires right hand side because if you strike it too low, the cue ball is going to end up in the green pocket. However, you do need to get enough right hand side on the cue ball to hit the reds. I thought I managed it on my third attempt, but the cue ball lacked the side spin, and I definitely think this could be a contender at the end of the video for the hardest shot, because it's so difficult to get enough right hand side on the cue ball and pop the green. But when I managed it, I got the split perfectly and was in great position, in fact even better than Judd. Zhao Xintong is powering the cue ball around the table off the pink, and this is another one where I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hit it hard enough. But there is only one way to find out, and again it's the side spin that makes this shot difficult, because if you put too much side spin on the cue ball, it's going to end up in the corner pocket. However, if you don't put enough on the cue ball, it's not going to make the angle around the cushions. With that in mind, eventually I managed to pot the pink at full power. The cue ball ran around the cushions about as fast as I could hit it, however it came up a little bit too short for the black, but again this is one I couldn't hit any harder. But a tough shot like this could do well later on. Next, it's Mark Selby's turn to be putting a lot of side spin on the cue ball. You have to be really accurate with this one to get it to spin off the cushion in the right direction. Mark even manages to stay in position with a tiny double kiss. Getting the cannon is such a difficult shot, so I was really happy to get it on my first attempt, and not only that, get the double kiss. Playing a double isn't always easy, but how casual does Judd Trump make this one look? It may not be the hardest shot, but Judd just got down and hit this and it went right in the middle of the pocket. I tried to do the same thing and also managed to get the pot. I avoided the middle pocket, although my cue ball could have been better. If Judd's double on the pink wasn't casual enough for you, then his double on the black certainly will be. This time just gets down and makes a very straightforward shot harder. I managed to get this on my second attempt, but which was better, this or the pink? Time to cue the music. The black from Judd certainly was a casual shot, and it earns him 3 casual cactuses, but it was nowhere near as difficult or as casual as the pink, which earns him 4 casual cactuses, and it's this year's winner. Ryan Day now plays an excellent positional shot that allows him to finish in good position on the green. So we're definitely back with shots that are going to be contenders for the hardest shot of the year, because it's incredibly difficult with this one to cut the yellow in with a lot of left hand side being such a thin cut when it needs so much power. I couldn't believe how well I got it on my third attempt, and the audience seemed to like it as well, because I'm not sure how they even got up there. I'm not sure I've even got the cue power to be able to play Judd Trump's next shot. Another shot where I really wish I had a faster table, but even then I'm not sure I'd be able to screw back about 10 feet from 7 foot away. However, on my first attempt I did manage to pot the yellow, which I was really pleased with. However, I didn't even get the cue ball back half as far as it needed to go, and because I unfortunately put a small amount of right hand side on it, it actually spun back towards the red. I was looking to at least get on the red in the middle pocket, which meant throwing my whole body weight at the ball. Unfortunately, on my fifth attempt I hit it as well as I could, and I couldn't get anywhere near this. Ronnie is about to use a creative way to get in good position on the black. This is another shot that I clearly needed to play at almost full power, but I wasn't exactly sure how much backspin or right hand side it needed. So I had a bit of a guess and decided not to dig into the cue ball too much. I hit it about as hard as I could on my first attempt, and it went on the perfect line. I couldn't believe how well this finished. I was really happy with this one. Good news everybody, time for another Judd trump shot that's virtually unplayable. And this time the problem is it's a very difficult pot down the cushion. I decided to play this with just backspin. I'm not sure if Judd used any side spin at all, but I didn't really want to complicate things. And after a few shots I could see the cue ball was coming off at roughly the right line, so I think this is how he played it. However, I kept finding that I couldn't get close to the pot. I was starting to wonder how long I'd be here, and I think then I got a little bit lucky and the red went dead in the centre of the pocket. I could have been here about 20 minutes and not got this shot, although my cue ball could have been better. Not to be outdone by Judd, Neil Robertson now has a shot that I also don't think I'm going to be able to play. If Judd's last two shots were serious contenders for the hardest exhibition shot of the year, and they were, then I think we have to consider this one as well. The pink is incredibly close to the side cushion here, and you've got to screw the cue ball back the length of the table. The fact that you can use right hand side makes it easier for the cue ball to come back, but doesn't make the pot any easier. I was struggling to get the cue ball to hit the right place, and eventually after I finally potted the ball I decided I probably wasn't going to be able to play it any better than this and had to settle with this one, although I wasn't really happy with it. It felt like I should have played a better shot, but I'm not sure that was possible. I really like the way that Stuart Bingham gets in position on the yellow here, so I can't wait to give it a try. You need a lot of power on this one to delay the backspin around the pink, but you also need a lot of left hand side to spin it around the final two cushions. If you don't get enough side spin on the ball, then the cue ball simply won't reach the yellow. The problem is the more left-hand side you put on the cue ball, the harder it is to make it arc around the pink. So I found myself in the difficult position of trying to hit this shot too hard because my table again wasn't quite fast enough. But even so, I knew I could play this shot if I struck the cue ball perfectly in exactly the right place. Annoyingly, even on my table, I think this was a far easier shot than I was making it look, and I should have got it a lot quicker than this. See, I can do it. We've got another Mark Williams shot next after we find Bart, who's from Leuven, Belgium, which is there. This one's another contender because again it's a ridiculously difficult shot. Mark manages to play the cue ball around the table perfectly and get the perfect cannon on the red and black. He made the pink look incredibly easy, but it really isn't, and unfortunately because of the position of the red and the fact I was right-handed, even though I could easily reach the shot, it was really hurting my back. So when I got the cannon on my third attempt I didn't really want to play it again, even though I didn't actually get in position. Shaun Murphy's playing the next shot and he's not going to be getting in position on the black the easy way. I really like this shot. Shaun screws the cue ball into the right hand side cushion with a lot of left hand side, which then spins it around the three cushions perfectly for the black. This actually makes the pot very difficult to play with a lot of power on the side spin, and it took me a few attempts to even play it at the right angle. Because if you pot it a little bit too thick or thin, then you're not going to get in position on the black. Unfortunately, I walked into the camera a couple of times on this shot and I didn't really notice, and that's why the table looks a bit weird at the other end, because I was slowly rotating it around more and more. However, on my fourth attempt, I managed to play the shot pretty good, got in position on the black and could easily pot it. And just when you think I've made it to the end unscathed, of course I've got another virtually unplayable Judd trump shot. I've just about got away with all the shots I've played so far. If I've given a shot 5 out of 10, then it means it's done the bare minimum of looking like the shot I'm actually trying to play. Any lower than this and I wouldn't consider it a success at all. So this shot, where I had to pot a really difficult long yellow and then spin the cue ball around 4 cushions for the red, was really worrying me. However, on my fourth attempt attempt I thought I'd done it, until I hit the black. Again, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to hit this shot hard enough or play it, but eventually I discovered that I could play it, and I was really happy with the result again with this one. This was a tough one, but I'm not sure it quite qualifies after the previous shots.
Picking a winner was genuinely challenging because these are some of the most difficult shots I've ever had to play. But that said, third place goes to Luca Brecel. He absolutely powers the cue ball around the table here, and I couldn't quite play this one hard enough. And it was really close, but second place goes to Robertson because this was both such a good pot and positional shot. But of course first place goes to Judd with this powerful screw shot. Even though he doesn't really get in position here, this is one of the best cued shots I've ever seen.
Those were the hardest to recreate exhibition shots from last year, but if you want to see pressure match play shots recreated, have a look at our top video, or our bottom video shows more trick shots being recreated. And remember, don't just watch, play, and make the commitment to becoming a better player by subscribing to the channel and visit the website. See you later.